FiiO time. So today we're going to talk about FiiO FH3, and at the end of the video I'm also going to be comparing it to the FH5. Now this one, I'm not sure if it's discontinued. It's getting harder and harder and harder to find now that the new FH5S is out. Now that one is quite controversial. There's a lot of mixed reviews on that one. I like the FH5 original more than the FH5S, but we'll talk about that later on in the video. Let's get back to this thing. FH3, let's jump into the unboxing. All right, unboxing time for the FH3. As you can see here, in front of the box, picture of the IEM FH3 at the corner here, FiiO at the top. In the back here, you get some information of the IEMs at the bottom here on the side. Nothing really on the side here. Now we open this, and the IEM sits inside like so, very nice and neat. This is a box of accessories / traveling case. You can see you get this little hard case for travel, but you also get this soft case as well for just your normal, daily use. You can throw this in your bag, your purse, whatever. And inside here, you get an assortment of tips. Here's the close-up of the IEMs themselves. They're very well constructed, nice design, very comfortable to wear as well on the ears. There's no rough edges. I thoroughly enjoy wearing these for very long hours, extremely comfortable. Also, the cable here, this is the MMCX connector. Some of you may like that, some of you may not. The cable here for me is just all right. They do have a memory to them that I don't really like so much. They don't really hang down straight like I want them to. The memory is very strong on these. The cable is it's all right, yeah. But the construction of the shells themselves, the IEMs themselves, very nicely done. Hey guys, TIMMY, welcome back to another video on Kids Audio. Today we have the FiiO FH3. This thing comes in at around $129 or $139 depending on where you look. Sometimes it goes on a discount for even $119. Again, just shop around for good deals. I'll leave a link to one down below. And yes, this thing, as the rumors or as the legend would suggest, is one of the best IEMs you can grab under $150. And before we even jump into the sound review of this thing, I would say that from my personal experience, having owned many IEMs and many high-ends and many $100 IEMs as well, that this is in fact one of the best IEMs you can grab under $150. It's just very versatile piece of equipment. There's not a lot of genres that you won't be able to play on this thing. There's not a lot to fault about this unit, and at the price that it's at is a complete steal. Like, it's a great buy. If you're looking for a really nice versatile V-shaped IEM with good sub bass and good treble extension, and overall a very uncongested vocals as well, it's just a really well done piece of equipment at $129. So with all that being said, if you guys are not already sold, let's jump into the bass. So starting with the bass here, like I mentioned before, this thing has more focus on the sub bass than the mid bass. So you definitely feel more of that rumbling sensation. The mid bass is gonna be a little bit kind of behind the scene or veiled, if you will. So a lot of those thumpy, big impact moments are not gonna happen so much with these IEMs. Now the good part about that is that it leaves a very clean transition from the sub bass all the way to the lower mid-range where the male vocals live. So you get this really great sense of separation between the bass and the male vocals, which is fantastic at this price. It makes everything sound very clean. It makes the vocals sound very nicely separated. Now, one of the downside of this is that the mid bass is gonna feel quite textureless. Like, you're not gonna get a lot of details out of the mid bass in these IEMs. And I think in the bass department, that's where the details are the weakest in this IEM, but still a very enjoyable bass, especially in the sub bass department. I really don't have too much to fault about it, just in the detail department when it comes to the mid bass section. It just doesn't have enough thump, enough power. But again, you're trading that for a more cleaner sound and a cleaner transition into the male vocals. Moving on into the mid-range, let's talk about the lower mid-range first. Male vocals sound fantastic out of these. It has a little touch of warmth, just slightly but touch of warmth that gives them kind of a full range, so they don't sound so analytical, they don't sound so clinical. They sound quite natural for a V-shape, and that's something I really appreciate. A lot of V-shape, especially not so well done V-shapes, are gonna really hide the mid-range or hide the vocals behind the bass or hide the vocals behind the treble.
These don't do that. Male vocals shine through exceptionally well for a V shape, and it's just enjoyable overall in that department. Female vocals, moving up to the upper mid-range now, we have quite a pronounced female vocals, but not too pronounced. It's never too shouty or it's never too in your face or too much. Treble extension is also pretty good on these as well, giving the female vocals quite a nice full range so they don't feel congested. They feel like they're in an open environment and singing. They don't feel squeezed or small in any given way, and that, to me, I really appreciate as someone who listens to a lot of female vocals. In terms of other mid-range instruments in general, they just sound quite natural. The timbre is quite a natural one as well. I wouldn't say the heaviest feeling or the most impactful hitting notes out there. They do feel somewhere in between, and for the price that it's at, really no complaints. Moving on to the treble, this thing has quite a nice treble response, and you're gonna get the most amount of details from this region. So a lot of hi-hats and cymbal hits, woodwind instruments like flutes or clarinets are gonna have that shimmer and shine that they really need to come alive. And the FiiO FH3 portrays that quite well. If you're listening to orchestras, you're gonna enjoy orchestras off of these because it has really nice low end and also great extension in the high end. Like I said again, woodwind instruments are gonna really benefit from the treble response on these IEMs. Again, also the female vocals that I mentioned before. So yes, just a really nicely well done treble with good levels of details. There's a slight bit sense of air as well, not too much, there's just a slight touch of air as well, which gives this kind of like a wider stage. We'll touch on the sound stage a little bit more here later on in the video, but yes, treble region is probably my favorite part of these IEMs. On to the technical performance of these ones, the detail, separation, soundstage, and imaging. Let's start out with the resolution first, the details. So again, with the bass, that's where you're gonna get the least amount of details, especially in the mid bass. Everything feels a little bit behind or veiled, if you will. You get more sub bass than mid bass, so that's just a little bit of trade-off there. I do wish it has a little bit more texture there in the mid bass. I wish it hits a little harder, but you're trading that off for a cleaner sound in the male vocal department. In the mid-range, the vocals come across cleanly, so you get a nice sense of clarity there. In the treble region, like I said, it shines really well. It highlights a lot of those little details, some micro details in the woodwind instruments, and the cymbal hits really well. Even something like snapping fingers or clapping, those little high-pitched sounds are nicely pronounced on these IEMs. So clarity-wise in the treble is really nice. So details, overall, I would say is average. Yeah, it's good in some parts, okay in some parts, and a little bit poor on some parts. So I would say detail retrieval for these IEMs are just about average. Imaging and soundstage. Now on these IEMs, they actually feel quite wide because of the focus on the sub bass and the focus on the high ends, this treble extension and a little bit of air that it has. It makes everything feel open and it gives that sense of space. While it's not the widest IEMs I've ever tried, they're definitely wider than your average $150 and below, or even $200 and below IEMs out there. So for those of you who are into soundstage, these ones will satisfy your needs. Imaging wise, it does suffer a little bit. You can tell where instruments are coming from, for the most part directional wise, but it doesn't really have a lot of, I would say, depth. So further instruments, closer instruments, they don't really have that kind of effect. You can feel in a vertical sense where the instruments are coming from, but not in a depth perception department, and also not really a pinpoint accuracy as well. But that to me is just due to how the mid bass is done. It's really veiled and hiding a lot of those lower elements as well. So with that, the imaging does suffer a little bit, but you're trading that off for, again, a cleaner sound and a wider stage. That's it for the review of the FH3. Now let's take a look at the FH5 for comparison. Now the differences between these two are gonna be, first of all, in the resolution. The FH5 is just gonna come across more detailed, more resolved overall, and also in the signature, the FH5 is going to come across more neutral as well, while these, the FH3, are more V-shaped, more sub-bass focused. These are more neutral. It tames down the sub-bass a little bit. It cleans up a little bit of the mid-bass as well, still retaining that kind of clean signature, but overall just more neutral. I would say that the more fun IEM to listen to is going to be the FH3. The FH5, again, is more neutral. Still has quite a fun DNA, but the FH3 is going to be slightly bit more fun. The FH5, however, is just an overall better IEM. It's more tonally correct, it's more well balanced, it's more neutral, and overall has better resolving power and just a lot cleaner sounding than the FH3. So again, if you were to pick between the two, FH5, just a better IEM overall. But if you want the maximum amount of fun and you like this kind of signature, FH3 would be the better pick. Now the FH5 price is a little bit wonky now that it's a little bit harder to find. I've seen it for anywhere between $199 to like $230, $249, like it's just all over the place. If you can grab this for $199 though, it is quite a great deal at that price. These at, again, $129, also a great deal. It's really up to your preference if you want a more neutral, more just better resolving IEM, or you want just fun IEM with great soundstage. Alright guys, that is it for this video today. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't done so yet, if you found this one helpful, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace. Bye.